So it's time to buy a house and you're going to make an offer. What can you do to put yourself in a position where the offer you make has the most likely success of being accepted by the seller? Mistakes to avoid. It's the Real Estate Show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. We're talking today on the Real Estate Show about some of the mistakes that people may make before they make an offer or when they make an offer on the house they wish to purchase. Now, I've talked to many realtors over the years, and I've experienced this myself. And I've run into situations where my buyer or my client will say to me, well, I don't want to apply for the financing until I find the home I want to purchase. That's a nice thought. However, if you do find a home that you're going to make an offer on and you're in a seller's market, there may be other offers coming in on that home. So the seller is not going to wait for you to find the mortgage lender and go get a mortgage when they may have offers in front of them that are just as good, where those folks have already got their financing in line. And let's talk about financing for a minute. There are a lot of different finance sources that are out there, as well as a number of different programs. Now, I am not a mortgage officer, and I don't want anyone out there to assume that I am. I am a realtor. But over the years, I have learned a lot about mortgage financing. There are several internet companies out there where you can put in some basic information and get what's called a pre-qualification letter. Now, let me break this down a little bit. First of all, when you make an offer on a home, a lot of the sellers nowadays want to make sure that the person or people making that offer have the ability to follow through on that offer and close on the property. We have a lot of sellers that may be asking for, along with the offering agreement, a copy of the bank's letter stating that this person is prepared to make a purchase. Now, sometimes you'll go on the internet and you may find a lending source that's kind of obscure. It's a source that not everybody's familiar with, but it has the least amount of hoops or maybe a great rate or something along that, and that's why it's attracted to you. Now, even though your purchase offer does not state in it what bank you're going through for your mortgage, the letter you get will be on bank stationery. So if the seller sees the letter and they're not familiar with who the mortgage source is, it may put a little doubt in their mind about the buyer having the ability to secure that mortgage. Now let's get into the terminology here. There are two things that you do. There's what's called a pre-qualification letter and a pre-approval. Now I want to just spend some time in talking about the difference between the two because it's very, very important to understand. In the old days, realtors would encourage their buyer clients to talk to a mortgage officer, a lender, or whatever, and get what's called a pre-qualification letter. Now, a pre-qualification letter is just a statement on stationery from the lending source that says they have had an initial interview with you, and they've talked about your debt, they've talked about your income and your job and where you live and so on and so forth. Maybe even have discussed some of the programs they have available. And based on guidelines and ratios, debt to income, they come up with a number. And the letter says you have been pre-qualified for an amount of whatever. Let's use in this case figuratively, let's say $240,000. That does not mean you can get a mortgage for $240,000. It just means that based on your initial conversation, the banker you've talked to, the mortgage officer you've talked to, in doing their analysis, feels that that's the range you can qualify for. Now, the reason why you get the pre-qualification letter in the first place is so you know what price range you're going to shop in. You don't want to go out looking at houses unless you're looking at houses that you can afford. So obviously this is a very good step to go through. But here's the problem. A pre-qualification letter is just based on hearsay. So when an offer is made and the seller gets the pre-qualification letter, the letter doesn't say that that individual has already done the process of making a mortgage application. So time can be an issue here, and it's also not as solid as someone who's gone through what's called a pre-approval process. Now let's talk about that. A pre-approval is stronger than a pre-qualification. What a pre-approval does for you is it means you've already made your mortgage application. You've sat down with your mortgage officer, you've filled out the application forms, they have gone through and verified your income, they've pulled your credit report, looked at your credit, they've analyzed all the different things that are involved, and they issue you a pre-approval that says you qualify, you are approved for a mortgage up to, and they give you a dollar amount. This is a good, strong position to be in. Now, it's not a guarantee because obviously there's going to be an appraisal involved and you haven't yet picked the house that you're going to buy, but it communicates to the seller that you are ready, willing, and able to move forward should they accept your offer. Let's take a break and have some fun and look at some houses that are for sale, and I'll be right back right after. We're talking here on the Real Estate Show on some of the mistakes or things that people don't do or might not do when they're making an offer on a home. And one of the things that I want to add to this is the writing of a letter. Now, I've had many discussions over the years with realtors as to whether or not letters work or not. What I'm talking about is what we call a seller's appeal letter. In other words, you, the buyer, write a short little letter to the seller to be submitted with the offer and your pre-approval letter that says why you want to buy that home. And you're trying to appeal emotionally to the seller. Now, this comes into play when there's multiple offers on a home. Let's say, for instance, that you're making an offer on a home and other people are making offers, you're all within the same price range. You're trying to communicate to the seller why they should pick your offer over someone else's offer. But you've got to be very careful here. A lot of realtors will say a letter could help, but it also could not help. Unless you're really good in writing and conveying and communicating your emotions in a letter form, I would stay away from it. But again, a lot of people feel that if they write and they say, oh, how nice the house is, how perfect it is for my family, and so on and so forth, that they might appeal emotionally to the seller to give them a little bit of an edge. Talk to your realtor, see what situation you're in when you come to the home that you want to buy, and see whether or not a letter is a tool that you should use or should not use. Now, you have your pre-approval letter. It says that you are pre-approved for a mortgage up to a certain dollar amount. Let's use the figure I used earlier. I was talking about, let's say, $240,000. You know that you're in a situation, in this case, of putting $30,000 down. One of the mistakes buyers make is they take what they can qualify for a mortgage of, and they add what they're going to put as a down payment, and that's the price range they want to shop in. So in this case, they're pre-approved for a mortgage of $240,000. They know they have $30,000 to put down, so now they want to look at the $270,000, $280,000 range to purchase a house. This is a mistake, because it's what we call in our business an overreach. You're buying too much house, and you're not taking into consideration some of the other factors that may be involved in purchasing that particular property. It was said to me a long time ago that one of the guidelines is the pre-approval line is the ceiling. That's the maximum amount. You should be looking in price ranges that are under that amount to make sure you're going to be able to secure the mortgage on the house you want to buy. And if you're able to put a large down payment down, all the power to you, because that just means you're going to lower your mortgage payment and it's going to be easier to afford the house you want to buy. Let's take a break and look at this presentation, which talks about some of the mistakes buyers may make. I'm talking here on the Real Estate Show about mistakes that buyers may make in not preparing to purchase a home. And we're talking about the situation where you find a home and you're making an offer and getting that offer accepted by the seller. I mean, how can you position yourself? There is a problem out there where a lot of buyers, well, it's not really a problem, but everybody wants a bargain, let's just put it that way. You want to buy a house, you want to get it at a good price. That just goes for saying, correct? I mean, bottom line simply is you want to feel comfortable with the offer you're making on the house. But some people tend to try and make an offer that's too low. Now, the National Association of Realtors, and I've said this many times on the Real Estate Show, has done studies every single year, and they look at the selling of houses and the buying of houses, the list price of the houses compared to the sale price of the houses. And consistently, year after year, it always seems to fall within the 97-98% range of the asking price of the home. Now, there's a lot of factors that are involved. Negotiation on repair items, negotiation on closing costs, and so on and so forth. But 98% seems to be about the number. Now, let's say you have a house out there and it's an older home and it needs a lot of work and it's on the market for, let's say, $120,000. And you've toured the house and you see it needs a new roof, it needs a new furnace, it needs all kinds of things. You're figuring it's going to need $40,000, $50,000 worth of work. So you go and you make an offer of, let's say, $80,000 cash on a $120,000 house. Well, there's a mistake there because the house was probably priced because of those issues. So they've already taken into account a discount, as you were, on the home because they realize what repairs need to be done. So now you're making an offer and you're kind of double dipping. You're making an offer much lower than what they're anticipating the house to actually be worth with all those problems. So you're most likely not going to have your offer accepted, even though you're offering cash with no mortgage that's involved. Now, I'm not here to say that I haven't seen low offers get accepted, but it's in very specific situations. So you want to be careful. A good realtor, when they're representing you as a buyer, is going to look at the house you want to make an offer on, and they're going to do what's called the buyer's analysis. They're going to kind of take a look at the price of the house compared to other homes. They're going to adjust for condition, and they're going to advise you as to whether or not the pricing on the home is competitive or not. You, as the buyer, can make whatever offer you want, and the realtor's not going to tell you what offer to make on the house. All they're going to do is provide you with the correct information or enough information so you can make an offer that has the best chance of being accepted by the seller. Let's take a look at this special presentation, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more about some mistakes that won't help you get the house.
Today's not a day to wag fingers and to assign blame. Today is a day to stick out an olive branch and say we are willing to work with everybody on this stage and turn Connecticut into a state that businesses can't refuse to come to. That you need to be here and do business in the state of Connecticut.
Tell me what's been done around here in the last 20 years that makes your job easier. How about nothing? How about nothing?
Thank you for being up in Hartford today. I think this is the largest group we've seen in a long time, and certainly the largest group for realtors we've ever seen up here in Hartford. So thank you for being out here today.
And we want to hear those voices. We want to hear you involved in your government. And by being here today, you're doing that.
I hope no one's trying to sell a house in Connecticut today because you're all here. You have a great crowd, and we really appreciate it.
This is incredible, having over 2,000 realtors descend on Capitol Hill. If you want to think about your voices being heard, today they are being heard by all the legislators that you've seen up on stage.
Not only today, but for the last few years, we've heard and we've seen people talking about, and businesses talking about moving out of Connecticut. We, you and I, are here to tell the legislature that things must change.
I really want to thank you folks for doing this. It's so important. Your message just couldn't be more appropriate. The timing couldn't be more appropriate. We really are at a critical point in the state of Connecticut.
Because you are on the front lines, you do see who is coming and going, and you know from firsthand knowledge that people are leaving Connecticut. You know that people don't want to buy houses and therefore people aren't able to sell their houses. You know that because you do it every day. That's not a story. That's not spin. That's not politics. That's reality.
There were some that thought we couldn't put 1,000 people here. We've doubled that. So I want to thank you all. Today we lead with the olive branch, and we commit to put our shoulders behind this. But in the future, perhaps if we don't get what we want, we'll put our shoulders behind replacing the people that didn't get us there.
There's a rule. When you're purchasing a home, you've made your offer, you've done all the steps that are involved, and now your offer has been accepted. You're now going to go through the next stages as you march to your closing, your home inspection, your appraisal, and so on and so forth. It's during this time, we call it the escrow period, that you need to be on your best behavior as far as financing is concerned. I once had a gentleman that I was working with a number of years ago, and he wanted to build a multi-family empire. So we went out and we looked at a 3-family home. We negotiated, and we were able to make an offer on the home that was acceptable to the seller, and we were ready to start going the next steps. We didn't close. The deals fell apart. Why did they fall apart? During the time that the 2 houses were in escrow, he decided that he needed to go out and buy a brand new car. The financing of that car added to his debt ratio compared to his income and destroyed the qualification numbers to get those mortgages on those houses. When the bank pulled the credit and found out about it, they denied the mortgages and he was not able to close on the houses. So I say to all the buyers out there, when you make an offer on a house, kind of hold off. Don't make any big purchases unless you're planning to buy something for cash. This is the part of the show I call the Real Estate Mailbag. It's my opportunity to answer questions that are emailed to me here at the Real Estate Show, sometimes asked to me when I'm out and about. And the question that came up is what I've been talking about. I found a home, I want to purchase it. What is my best chance of getting my offer accepted? And as I said, there are a number of different things that you can do in preparation. You want to make sure that your offer is a strong offer and that it's supported by your ability to buy, either by a pre-approval letter, a letter you've written to the seller, or some kind of incentive that the seller is going to accept your offer over other offers that might have come in. Make sure you talk to your realtor. They do this every day, folks, so they know how to help you be in the best position to get the home you want. My name is Rick Naples. This has been the Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.